Welcome to the Odds and Ends podcast by Stock Odds, hosted by Rob Friesen, and I'm Dave Singh. And we're here on Sunday night trying to review the Stock Odds screener to get some ideas for the week ahead. Good evening, Rob.
Hey, good evening, Dave. Appreciate you dropping in on us here today. And let's take this and share some great information about what's in our numbers, what's in the odds. Hey, I got some questions for you. What do you think about these ARK funds here? We've got odds on the FinTech Innovation one, that's ARKF, 56.3 over the next 5 days. But the average performance is slightly negative. So that doesn't bode too well for that one. But the genomic is 62.8 with good performance. And the ARK Innovation Fund is 63 odds with excellent performance, 0.76. And the Next Generation Internet one is 59.1. So the one that looks the best is probably the ARK Innovation ETF. Any thoughts on that?
Well, that suggests kind of a risk-on mentality, but that's kind of conflicting with what you normally see in mid-month seasonality and kind of what the odds are saying for the mid-month.
Well, we did have a down session in the NASDAQ 100 and also some of these, tech ETFs and things like that on Friday. So all of these funds were down, 2% or so, between 1.5 to 2.25. So that's on the back of that is where we find ourselves here. It's like, okay, after that type of price move over the next 5 days, these have generally bode well. Right? So it's like some of these things, you don't get too many corrections, somebody's there to scoop them right back up. So that's what I'm seeing there. Can I correlate that with anything else? Let's go to XLK. This is the technology spider. It's 60.9 odds for average performance 0.29. So it tends to agree there. What else do we got? We have consumer discretionary. Now, remember, Tesla is a big part of that now with the XLY, 63. Tesla's also in the ARK Innovation Fund, by the way. So 63, average performance of 0.36 for the XLY. So I am seeing, this is the weird thing. I am seeing an overall, let's let the market keep on going up here as much as possible. Let's keep taking a little bit of risk. I don't see it super aggressive right now. But the weird thing is some of these junior miners, senior miners, and silver and basic materials as well all have favorable odds for this week. So we have this theme of technology and some of the basic materials, right? So what would you do with that?
It means a choppy week, slightly aggressive in the beginning, maybe a little risk off towards the end. But
well, I like that approach. We have seen choppiness last week, and it seemed to get more and more as the week went on. And the first 3 weeks of August aren't supposed to be super great performance. Going into seasonality, which is this week, we are looking for some softness to start maybe Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I think Friday for sure, because Fridays are not normally performing well in August anyway. And then the third Friday, which would be the week following, that Friday is not supposed to be very good. So I'm going to stick with looking for a decline later this week. Now, if we get it early, we're seeing a little bit of indication. Maybe Monday will pull back a little bit. If we get it early, okay, I'm not going to argue with it. But I would say it's probably positioned later, and that could be where gold comes through, or not gold so much, but just basic materials in general, commodities in general might shore up a little bit better towards the end of the week. So the other one that's holding up okay in this healthcare sector, still okay. Utilities were strong last week. They seem to be okay for this coming week. Energy is really one that's kind of, on the fence here. So we had some good earnings. coming out of some of the oil companies, and also Saudi Aramco just yesterday said that they made a lot of money, 25 billion, and things are looking good. But oil is supposed to be down for this month and even kind of on the fence for this week. Mm-hmm. So I am going to keep my eye on it. I'm going to look for oil stocks that might be out of favor. So let's just score this a little bit here before we go into some of the symbols. We've got biotechs. Odds are still positive, but they're not as healthy as some of the other areas. But healthcare in general is okay. Home builders are actually only odds of 50.8 with negative performance this week. So home builders, I'm going to keep on my radar for a short. XLE, definitely flat to weaker, could go both ways though, depending on the earnings we've just come on the back of. But I'm going to still look for favoring short side of XLE if I can. That's the energy sector. Financials are the strongest, showing at 76.2 odds, average performance over 1% over the next 5 days. So financials were really strong last month and last week. You think that'll continue? What is the argument for financials?
Well, continuation of the 10-year grinding up throughout the end of the year. That's the only thing that they have going for them. And rotation back to value stocks if that does hold true.
Okay. Yeah. We also have to keep an eye on retail stocks. Often, do pretty well in the fall. So sometimes they get an early jump in August. This metals and mining also has odds of 71.8, so it's the second of my list. This is going to be curious whether the senior miners and the junior miners and the silver stocks and the metal stocks in general can do pretty well this next week here.
Do any of those line up with what could happen with the infrastructure bill? I mean, can you?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah. I mean, hey, this XOP. That's the oil and gas exploration. That's showing 42.2, so that's below 50. So that ties in with our energy. So I think we're on the right theme here. I'm going to put possibly some biotechs on my short list, home builders on my short list, energy on my short list, oil and gas exploration on my short list. Well, let's roll over to some stocks here. So if we're favoring those groups, let's say financials, for example. Let's see if we can find a couple outstanding financials, since the group is supposed to be so strong.
Yeah.
Right. It's not like you're trading out of a vacuum.
What about Blackstone? That looks like it has good odds and good average performance.
I've got Old National Bank Corp. What do you think about that? ONB, Old National. Odds are positive on the RSI2, the percent B, and the weekly seasonality for this week from last Friday to this coming Friday, also very, very strong at 75 odds with an average performance of 0.2899. Right? So that's performed pretty well. In the insurers, there's some, like when you look at financials, don't just focus on the money-centered banks. You got to look at the consumer finance area, the insurance, capital markets, brokers, all of that, right? So Sterling Bank Corp as well, showing positive odds. U.S. Bank Corp, a lot of bank corps here. U.S. Bank Corp.
They're smaller capped.
Yeah, they are. They are. So maybe what we saw with the leading of the financials is sort of they ran first, and some of these are like me too following along. They lagged, right? It's possible. So what else we got? Prudential and insurance looking good across the board on RSI, percent B and for the weekly seasonality. So that's good. Anything on your end?
What is FTNT? That's software and technology.
Fulton Financial Corp. Well, the thing with that one, we have a conflict on the percent B, shows negative average performance. Seasonality and RSI line up okay on Fulton Financial Corp. All right, so let's take a look at some energy stuff that might be under pressure.
How about Oxy?
Yeah, it's funny, I've got a mixture of some pretty good positive stuff along with some negative stuff on this. I would say overall, mostly is looking odds are under 50 pretty much across the board for PXD, right? Oxy. Well, Oxy has RSI too at 51.4, but negative average performance. So two of the three agree on odds, and three of the three agree on performance. So I would take that. So Oxy would be on my short list. Murphy, short. That's MUR. But if you want to kind of split it, FANG, FANG, is positive, like 58, 60, 62 odds for my three indicators, and great average performance. So, you don't have to be completely exposed on the short side to the energy group if you wanted to mix it up like that and say long FANG and short, Murphy or something like that. Chevron, big name. Odds are below 50, right across the board. Negative average performance expected. APA is a big name too, right? And we're negative right across the board, with the exception of percent B does have average performance coming off of that lower penetration, well, almost penetration of the band, got really close to the lower band. But definitely on RSI, it's negative performance, and on the weekly seasonality, it's negative performance. So Apache looking interesting there as well.
What about Valero below?
So anything you see on any other groups?
Well, one more oil. Valero looks
okay.
Low odds and negative performance.
Okay. Looking through some of these symbols here. Let's go to healthcare for a minute. So the big name, obviously Pfizer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the interesting thing there is it's slowly starting to run out of steam, even though it has been announced, that they're trying for FDA approval, and also the booster shots, things like that. So there's a lot planned out of Pfizer, but I do see that it's starting to decline. Where the odds used to be running pretty strong for the upside, it's now RSI is still leading at 59.8 with average performance 0.47. But we move into percent B and seasonality, also we see that they're moving down. Now I would kind of like scrap the seasonality to some degree, just because last year at this time they didn't have the announcement of the vaccine, right? That only came in December. So I would sort of take seasonality off the table for them. I'm just telling you that there's a bit of a conflict between RSI and percent B, which is standard deviation, and I just see it running out of steam a little bit, even though that the news for them is still good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Like some of these healthcare providers, like Tenant and stuff, they're looking pretty good. McKesson, Medtronics, like they supply healthcare equipment and supplies. So a lot of those picks and shovels side of things still holding up really well. Odds are good across the board. So, all right. So we discussed a few groups and our seasonality for the next week. So what we want to do is we want to start to roll to a daily, planning session. So we'll get that started as soon as we possibly can. But thanks for listening, everyone, and have yourself a good night.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks. Take care.